How you doing, Dave?
Good. You?
Tell me when we're ready.
We should be ready. We should be ready now. Yep.
Oops, wrong button.
We good?
Read.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the Board of Zoning Appeals to order at 5:03 PM. Roll call.
Chairman Rowe,
Here.
Mr. Golis,
Here.
Mr. Vukotic,
Here.
Mr. Andrus, Mr. Reed,
Here. Remember, I'm last.
Especially when it's important.
All right, can I get approval of the August 25th, 2021 regular meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve him, Ron Vukotic.
I'll second, Mr. Reed.
Roll call.
Mr. Vukotic,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Golis,
Yes.
Chairman Rowe.
Yes. All right, so this is a board of 5. Obviously, we're missing one board member tonight, so you guys will have the option to decide if you still want to proceed with your variance request or postpone until next month, when we would hope that we would have a full board, no guarantee. So if you do proceed to go tonight, you'll need 3 yes votes for your variance to be approved out of the 4 of us. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And then as soon as I state your variance request, make sure you step up to the podium, sign in, state your name, and then give us a little background on the request, and then we'll go from there. So first waiver tonight is W1670-21, waiver of ordinance 069-2020, section 1155.02A, relating to fences. The location is 511 Skyway Drive. The applicant owner is Michael Thompson. So yeah, just make sure you're signed in, state your name, address, and then let us know what
I
the,
already signed in.
okay, perfect.
Michael Thompson, 511 Skyway Drive, Oregon, Ohio.
And then just tell us a little more about the request and why you're looking for the variance.
My house is situated on a corner lot. I'm requesting the variance waiver for the backyard to put in a privacy fence that encompasses more of the entire backyard.
So you've got a existing, I guess there's a natural break, I think, in the side house. I drove by it. It's where your porch starts. Is that where that line basically terminates, where the house and the porch start?
Yes, right up in there is where about the gas meter runs in, just prior
Okay.
to that part of the porch. And then towards the sidewalk and then back to the backyard. I guess I'm classified as having 2 front yards.
2 front yards, the corner lot, yep. So it's only 2 feet. Is that what I'm reading right here, Mark? There's only,
Yeah, so he would be allowed a 4-foot fence, so he's asking for a 2-foot exception in the height. on the
But-
fence.
we're not, all right, so, I mean, if this fence was another 8 to 10 feet to the back of the house, then we're not here,
Well, if it was over to the side
I
there,
guess, and then lined up with the edge of the house.
exactly,
Yep.
that would, yeah, and I don't know the distance, but you're
Yeah.
probably right, about 8-10 foot would be the difference there.
And it looks like you started on the other side of the house, like a dog-eared fence, 6-foot privacy wood fence. Is that what's going on?
Yes, I tied into the neighbors that was over there just on that side.
Is that the intent for this fence too?
Yes, same style fence.
I assume engineering's looked at this, no issues with corner.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I can't be certain of that, but I would believe they had seen this.
It's pretty far distance from the corner, just want
Yes.
to make sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Questions from the board? Any additional questions?
I had just 2. Mark, across the street where them big arborvitaes are, that's a retention pond right there? There's no house, it's a pretty solid wall of arborvitaes on the opposite side of the street.
Yeah.
City truck was over there, a pump station in there and stuff. So there's no residence on that lot.
Correct. Yeah.
And then I guess the other question is to the to the owner, how close to the sidewalk are you? I mean, your marker looks like you're right on the edge of the
When I put
sidewalk.
up, I didn't know if there's a limitation on distance from the sidewalk. I'm by all means, not necessarily wanting to put it on the sidewalk, obviously just to encompass as much of the backyard I could with the privacy fence. So if it need to be set back 3 foot from the fence, that's not an issue or anything.
No, you're allowed to go up to the sidewalk.
Okay. Now, I'm probably gonna put some kind of buffer in there.
Okay.
Just because I don't want any kind of instability with the fence that I can't correct with the sidewalk being there.
We just happen to have one right up there on Wynn that they put it pretty much right on the sidewalk and it just looks pretty, doesn't look good. That's the only reason I was curious. I didn't know if it-
No, as long as usually that public. So
I mean, you probably don't usually run into that situation because you don't have a sidewalk going through two properties, so you're not,
Right.
unless it's a corner lot.
Plus, we really don't have permits for it, so we don't see the permits when they, for fences, so not
Talking
yet.
about that one on Wynn, just,
Yeah, just north of
Seaman. That one's
That one's under review. I think
That
it was done
illegal yet
mistakenly.
anyway.
I think he was given some bad information, so we're working with him on it.
Yeah.
How would you feel about, I describe this, your neighbor there on, Bay Meadows?
Okay,
You see how close his house is to the sidewalk?
on which one? To the west?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
How would you feel about staying that far off the sidewalk, equal distance to his house, so you're not closer to the sidewalk than his house is? So your fence would be in line with his house.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I don't know the exact amount. The only thing is, we have, what's not on the aerial photo is, we have a garden in there now. And that would take up probably pretty close to that. Somewhere where the shed is on that lot
Mm-hmm.
is probably, the middle of the shed is probably about middle of the garden, so it would be very close to that, to be able to encompass that portion of it in there without having to move that.
I mean, is there, I think where Dave's going with trying to get some sort of a buffer, like a
I
buffer
did-
from the sidewalk, trying to line up.
Yeah, I just think that it might look odd having the fence all the way up against the sidewalk like that, but given the fact that there's only 2 homes on Bay Meadows,
Yeah.
I don't think it would look out of place if his fence was as close to Bay Meadows as that existing house is. If they were lined up, because if you're standing down the street, they're in line with each other, so.
I mean, it,
Or at least close, give or take a couple feet or whatever,
could
just so it's not out that extra
we could define a
6 foot or
a
something.
landscape buffer sort of, if we wanted, I get, that's up. I guess it's our
Well, we
prerogative.
we could propose to grant a variance as long as it's not closer to Bay Meadows than his neighbor at whatever that address is. For the 6 foot. Now, but if he wants to go 4 foot, he could go all the way to the walk, right?
Yeah,
What are these?
I mean, that's like, the only, I fear that, that house is probably every bit of 16 to 20 feet off that
Right.
drive. There's a shadow line there that's a little misconceived.
Yeah, it's never
I mean, that-
straight on.
It's like a 20-foot setback off
I don't
that
know how far
sidewalk.
this house is, 'cause this house was here before the road went in.
I feel
Yeah.
comfortable at 8. We run into a lot of these requests, so we got to kind of be careful what we
No.
allow and not allow.
Yeah, and the reason I keep for the variance, if I had to go back to the edge of the corner of the house and run back, I lose just such a large portion
Oh, yeah.
of
yeah.
what would be a backyard.
I don't think the concern here
That
is
one.
how far in, coming to the front of your house. I think it's purely on the Bay Meadows side.
Okay,
If we push off of that sidewalk a little bit, just so it's not.
yeah. I don't have
A solid
any
wood
problems
privacy
doing
fence
anything
right
like
on
that.
that.
Yeah,
So I think that, Dave's throwing out and matching up with the house behind it, but if I had to guess, that's every bit of 20 foot plus or minus. So I think if we throw out something maybe that gives it some sort of a buffer.
I would feel comfortable at 8. If you could.
From the
just once-
sidewalk?
From the sidewalk. You'll still be out past the shed. I think your garden would be fine.
yeah, I think 8 will be more than sufficient.
Yeah, you have a tree down there that's right about at 8 foot. That,
Yeah, that's an apple tree. I could move it if I needed
Yeah.
to as well, so. But yeah, I've got no problems or issues putting a buffer in from the sidewalk. I don't want to put it right on top of it, but in the scheme of the drawing, that was kind of the general idea, was just kind of push that fence out to encompass as much as possible.
How far is the apple tree?
About 8 feet.
Just about 8 feet.
Might be able to use it for a post. Just get it.
Yeah, it's old school.
Why don't we make it 7? That way we wouldn't have to move the apple tree.
I'm guessing on the 8.
Okay, okay.
I just know there's a tree.
Any other questions from the board? Anybody else here to speak for or against the matter? Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion.
So make the motion with this 8-foot setback.
Off
That
of
way
the
we're-
sidewalk, yeah.
I'll make a motion to accept W16070-21 with the stipulation that the fence stays to the south of the sidewalk, minimum of 8 feet.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Vukadich,
Yes.
Mr. Golis,
No,
Chairman Rowe,
Yes. All right, you're all set.
Thank you all.
All right, next waiver is W1671-21 waiver of ordinance 069-2020, section 1155.01A relating to accessory buildings. Location is 2041 Mominy Street. The applicant owner is William Shabinas Jr. Thank you.
I've already signed it.
Okay,
My address is 2041 Mominy. I'm trying to get a variance for, I'd like to put an addition on the back of my barn for more storage, because I'm in construction and my yard is getting filled up with debris to keep my neighbors off my back, basically.
I think there's an aerial in there. Maybe not. That's probably the best one. Have we run the math on where the percentages are?
Well, it has to be in the rear. That's the biggest thing I think here. So it'd have to be, that's why it was originally, you had a variance for the first barn he put up. And it was very specific as far as size, so that's why we're coming back again to look at adding an addition to it. Jim said it would have to go back before the board because
Because I mean, this one's more I guess, the way I read this request, it's not about the location
Yeah,
of it. It's
so-
basically the 30%. So I guess my
Correct.
question is, how close are we to the
Well,
30%?
and I think the issue here is traditionally, we had revised the code section and something was omitted. So a technicality, Jim says that we're going to, that it would have to, because it's assumed that you'd have to meet that 30% in the rear yard. That's what we're using right now until we can get that added.
And they're
back.
calling the rear yard the 24 foot by the width of the lot.
What was
They're
that?
calling it the 24-foot setback on the back. The width of the lot is what they're considering the entire backyard.
Yeah, I would say that, yes.
Right. So when they put the new garage up, I don't know how many years ago, that was too far forward to begin with.
Correct.
But given a special,
It was given, yeah, it was the way it was written. Jim said if it was given that size, so we couldn't just grant it over the counter. Would have to come back before the board to be reheard.
is that a double lot by any chance? Does anybody know, is that a double lot widthwise or not?
Don't
do you know how
know.
wide your lot is total?
Not total, I don't. They're combined, though, I do know that much.
The problem is that the accessory building is not technically going to be in the rear. of the
Well-
property, because if the house is
House.
reaching 25 foot off the rear yard setback, and the barn is gonna be clear up to 50 foot, where in theory, the rear yard, this addition's not in the rear yard, so that's why I guess I'm having. a
Well, it
hard
really
time-
doesn't have a rear yard if you really think about it, or much
Exactly.
of one, so that's the
Small.
biggest problem.
Correct,
So,
But
I
the
mean,
existing buildings are already not in the rear yard.
Yeah,
correct.
right.
But it's hard for me to justify a 30% rule when
Well,
30% rule is really
When it-
25 foot back, and then you take 30% of that, which this is not anywhere near. that.
Yeah, so if it's a 100-foot wide lot,
Exactly. 'Cause
yeah,
the building's not in the rear yard right now.
and I guess, all I'm trying to say is that last time we revised the accessory code, somehow that was omitted. It was directly spelled out saying it had to be in the rear of the yard. So the assumption is because that 30% is still there, that it has to be in the rear of the yard.
So the size of the original building was set up and some magic number was created, said this is 30%, you can't go any bigger than this because this is what we're estimating at 30% of the rear yard.
No, it was because it wasn't in the rear yard. So the reason we use the 30% is because it actually, if the codified codes actually list that 30%. And so like I say, somehow it was omitted, but out of general practice, and Jim saying it has to be assumed that it has to be in the rear yard because of the 30% listing. So that's why it's
So if the
listed.
trailer was set in the opposite direction, he'd have plenty of space in his backyard.
Yes.
But he's just so deep and narrow that it's creating conflict.
Go, you go back to that aerial. Is there a,
And you're only talking 14 foot, correct? Is that right? 14 by the width of the. or
What's the
what-
size of the existing building?
24 by 32,
And what are we adding on?
14 by 20.
so you're still not gonna be I mean, you're not anywhere near close to the rear of the main structure on the house.
Right.
Dave's running math over there to get
Mhm.
us, to get us good, just to make sure, but, we don't know what the lot width is. Were we guessing on that? Is
I
that
can
what's
look it up
going-
on Aries if you want. See what it's
So I'm
signed for
working
you.
it too.
Depth is 140? That's from the center of the road, or
I mean, even if you considered the rear yard to where the existing garage is, 14-foot addition is still not encroaching more than 30% of that rear yard.
He's not extending past the neighbor's house to the right.
No. I'll wait till our calculator over there spits it out.
the engineers. did it.
What you coming up with, Dave?
I'm trying to find his lot dimension right now.
Got Mark on it too. Let's see which one you get to it first.
Mm-hmm.
JT's on it too, so we have. three.
Oh, JT
Oh, I
better
think he's
win.
got
He's
it
the
already.
IT guy.
Oh, yeah.
Just say 140.
I think if the dimensions are proper, it's 140 feet based off of.
Well, it's,
I want the
it's,
width,
it's 3 35-foot wide lots is what it looks like, right?
35. What'd you
Oh,
say?
wait, no, that's your neighbor. Or wait, where am I at here? What is your?
I have 105.
41? Yeah, you're
105, right?
105 feet
Yeah.
across.
So if we say 105 feet times 50 foot to the existing building now, is that, or no? Your existing is the 24 by 32, is that what this sketch is there? Or is that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you say that 50 foot is the rear yard off of that, we're what,
on their fence line.
5,250 square feet, and then you're trying to build a, what'd you say, 14 by 20 total? 280. I mean, you're not anywhere near. Let's see here. Yeah, you're at like a
So
5%.
30% is 756 square feet.
So even if you went with the width by the
And he's at
24 from the back.
768 on his existing and 280 on the proposed.
But what are you considering the rear yard? So I was
From the
taking,
back of the house all the way across?
And you're still under.
Oh, he's way over.
Way over.
And 30%, he's over?
24
Yes.
times 105.
He wants a total of 1,048 square feet of accessory structure, and he's permitted, if we say 30% of the rear yard, he's only permitted 756. But he's not in the rear yard, which
Yeah,
makes
four-
it
14
strange.
He's not in the- so-
14
so
by
where I
20.
was at with it is if I were to consider the rear yard that 50-foot mark where the existing back of the accessory building is now, if that's the rear yard. If I were to think of it that way, then I've got 5,250 square feet of rear
Yeah,
yard.
I don't think you could do that though, because if you look at the definitions, it says
Correct.
from the house, so.
Right.
But we're also asking to modify a building that's not conforming now and put an addition on it, which the addition doesn't even get into the rear yard. So how do you justify that?
So the code says you can't not occupy more than 30% of the area of the rear yard.
Correct, and we're not in the area. So that's the part that, I'm saying if you extended the rear yard area back to that 50-foot mark, just to make a
How-
hypothetical rear
How have
yard.
you handled corner lots before that have very limited rear yards and someone puts an accessory structure on? Do you still limit them to 30% of the rear yard?
That would,
Even though it's not in the rear
well, it used to
yard?
be the required rear yard. Now we just changed it to the rear yard, give them a little more leeway. So,
So if someone came in on a corner lot, you would calculate the rear yard.
correct.
So you would still hold them to that.
Yes,
So that's the same as what we're doing here, even
Yep,
though it's not in the
exactly.
rear yard.
right.
So I think we have to still give them a variance to go over that 30%,
Well, I don't, I think,
even though it's not in the rear yard.
I think the variance request is justified why he's here. It's
Yeah,
just a matter
But we
of,
need to know the numbers.
Yeah.
yeah. It's obviously, there's a reason why there's a variance process. Every situation is different than the next, and this one's a little tricky just because structure doesn't even sit in the rear yard, so. And there, I mean, a lot of those areas that are platted out that way are this way too, where they don't quite have, the lot setups aren't exactly the same. They're traditional.
Mike, shouldn't this variance be requesting to put an addition onto a structure that's non-conforming because it's not being built
Oh,
behind
no, haven't
the
got
house,
Correct.
as well as the 30%?
A special visitor.
know in 5 minutes.
Say that again.
We have a non-conforming structure that's not built behind the rear of the house. Okay,
Correct.
so now we're gonna put an addition to that
Correct.
structure. So that has to be put into the waiver also, wouldn't it?
No, because I think this, the original structure, the accessory structure is already here for variance and approved, is my understanding.
Yes, yes, it was.
Okay.
So we're strictly here to
And
decide whether the addition, we agree with the addition or not.
okay,
Looks like he's actually gonna cover about 42% of his rear yard. So,
42.
yeah.
You're talking
the
about
total
the
accessory
existing
structure.
structure and the addition combined.
Yep.
Combined would be 42%. If you were to take that entire thing and put it in the rear yard.
Yeah.
Then it would cover 40%,
42, yep.
42%.
So he's at a 12% variance.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board? Anybody else here to speak for or against the matter? With that, I would entertain a motion.
I will make a motion that we approve the request to for the 20 by 14 foot addition to the rear of the existing barn, which will result in a 42% rear yard coverage.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Golis,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Vukutic,
No.
Chairman Rowe,
Yes. All right, you're all set. You can follow back up with building and zoning. All right, our final waiver is W 1672-21 waiver of ordinance 069-2020, section 1155.01A relating to accessory buildings and uses, and ordinance 182-2006, section 1155.04B1 relating to private swimming pools. The location is 2034 Verdun Street. The applicant is C. Anthony Campbell, Halo Pools for owner Thomas Wilson.
Thomas Wilson, 2034 Verdun Street, Oregon, Ohio. The variance that I'm asking for is because I do not have a backyard to put a pool in. I'm trying to upgrade the property and
I would like to add, the contractor that installed this is brand new to Oregon area.
Gotta
And
submit a pool permit.
what's that?
Gotta submit a pool permit,
He did, and there was a confusion on.
because there's a pool in that
Yes,
yard.
Yes, there is. So that's why it was installed. I think he was under the impression they had a permit, which he did not. We just gave him a receipt. So when he left our office, he thought he was okay to install a pool as it was presented, but I think there was, like I say, some confusion on the contractor's behalf because this is his first time in Oregon.
Got it. I guess
Okay.
that explains why there's a pool
Yeah.
in the yard. All right. Where's our math on this one? Dave's already working on it.
Yeah, there's no dimensions again, so.
I have all kinds of side yards.
Do you-
Do you know
Yeah.
roughly the outside dimensions of your pool?
35 by 16.
35.
Do you own all the way to the corner of Bay Shore or no?
Correct.
You do?
Correct.
So,
This is on the north side.
that one that's up there, you see the red line that boxed around your house and,
Yes, but I own the additional lot to the south toward Bay Shore.
and the north also?
And the north to where you see the next building and the
Yep.
blue line.
Okay, so you own that whole strip up to the blue line.
So if you add up,
So we gotta see what all that is.
Is it a combined lot?
but no, well, no, but that's the issue,
Multiple
I guess.
Yeah, it's combined. Otherwise,
No, all of his lots.
I think they're all combined. Yeah, we show them.
They're probably not combined if they're
No, they're
separated
not.
in areas.
They're not combined?
So he's probably got 3 different lots.
Oh. So they're all separate?
Actually, that's the black line
There's a house with
north
the,
of the red line.
Is that
Yeah,
your lot right there where he's?
that's where it ends.
That's correct. That is my lot.
So you go all the way
But it-
into Bay
Box.
Shore.
Red box. And then there's
So is it connected though? Is it technically connected into one lot? Or are they separate?
that Bay
parcels?
Shore Verdun lot is not. The corner lot.
So is there a proposed accessory building also? Or
I think
is
this
the
is-
pool?
no, the pool would be the accessory
There's
building.
no, we're not asking for an outbuilt, a pool
Nope.
house or a
Nope,
shed
just-
for
just be the-
filter or anything.
The pool would be considered an accessory.
Do you have any
structure.
idea how far your house sits off the back property line?
Back property line?
Yeah.
15, 20 at the most, I would think.
Is that white addition I see on the back, is that like a porch or is it part of the house?
That's a patio.
It's just a patio, is no
And
roof?
I'm Probably 10 foot, 12 foot beyond that.
Is there a roof over that patio?
No.
Okay, so that's just an open patio, so you're maybe 20 feet? Does that sound about right?
From,
From the back of your house to the back property line?
it depends on if you're talking about the back of the attached garage or the back of the house.
The house. The house is closer, right, to the back property line?
No,
It's not?
Yeah, but the house is the number you gotta use.
the attached garage is.
Oh, okay, so from the attached garage to the back then. You think it's like 15 then?
15, I'd say closer to 20.
20? All right, let's just use 20 for,
It's garage
to
detached.
figure this out.
There's power lines that I have to stay away from. Not power lines, I think it's DSL cable, some other lines that run on the east side of that property line on the north and south.
So 30%, so he has 480 foot of lot frontage total.
So if we do that,
And if we assume 20 feet from the back of his house to the back property line, that means he has 9,600 square feet of rear yard. 30% of that is 2,880 square feet.
2,000, how much?
2,880 would be his 30%.
And so
Now, is that going all the way to Bay Shore Road though?
Yes, because he owns all of those.
Yeah, but it's not one lot.
Yeah, I mean, we could stipulation, he's gotta combine them into one lot, but then he doesn't need a waiver, right?
correct.
Because it's just the pool, you don't have any, like,
He does have a detached garage, so
there
that's
is a
why,
detached
so
one?
you've got 560 feet for the pool.
It would still have to be in the rear yard though, even though it says.
Correct, but so you still have, even if you do the 2880 minus the 560, you're still left with 2320, and there's no way that 2320 of that detached garage is sitting in the rear yard. So you're not, if he were to combine all those lots, he wouldn't be
Except the pools
not-
needs to be in the rear
here. Side
yard.
yard, that'd be the only reason, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't be for the 30%.
Right,
Because that's
right.
really what this waiver is asking,
Exactly.
Correct.
was a 30%.
Exactly.
So regardless, you would have needed a waiver one way or the other.
I was of the understanding that the waiver was for the variance asking was for the fact that it won't fit in the backyard. It has to be put inside.
That's correct.
Correct,
Actually.
but what they're citing, they're citing you for multiple things.
Yeah.
So, but the 30% is also one of those. So that's why we were running the math to see if it was truly a 30%
Even with-
issue.
Without combining the lots, it still falls in that 30%.
And let me check. That was what I was
If you
wondering
take
too.
off, well, the problem is you have to take off the other two. You said you had one, you have the lot to the north of the red too? Is that yours there?
Yes.
Well, here's on areas. It shows, I don't know.
So it'd be just a lot in red.
That's shown as one parcel.
This is the other one that I
Oh,
think.
this is.
Yeah. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he's got 280 feet. 280 feet on the question, on the lot in question.
Times 20.
Which is 5,600.
Let's see.
So you'd be allowed 1680, and we subtract the 560, that leaves 1,120 for the detached garage. I don't know how big that detached garage is, but it's not like, it looks like the worst case scenario could be half behind the house. What, do you know roughly what the size of that detached garage is?
30 by 34.
Did you come up for your 30%? What was your number?
5,600,
Oh, yeah, and 30% is 1680.
yeah. So if he's 30 by 34 on that detached garage, so half of that would be 510. So 510 plus the 560 still puts him beyond, below the allowable.
Yep.
510, 560 is 1170. He's allowed, what, 1120? Or
No, he's allowed 1680
or 1680, and I got
and
a
he's
total of
at 1020, right?
1070, because if you take the 510, I'm just assuming half of that detached garage. That's what it looks like.
I only have.
Because I'm looking at the aerial and only half of it's behind the house.
Oh, but you said still an accessory structure. So you gotta count the whole thing. It's 30 by 34. So
I guess you're right.
yeah, so that's 1,020, so he's left with 660. How big is your footprint of your pool?
560 total square foot.
So he's okay.
That makes-
So even without combining them, the only variance he needs is that
Side
he's
yard.
not, yeah, he's not located in the rear yard.
Correct.
His 30% okay. I didn't know we were gonna have to do this much math tonight.
I'd have brought my calculator.
Thought our inspection department would to have all those numbers for us.
Yeah,
I
well,
bet you they will in the
we've
next.
been busy.
All right, so. Yeah, okay,
All
now
right.
we know where we are.
Any other questions from the board? Anybody else here to speak for or against the matter? Looking at you, you're the only one left, so. Okay. All right, I would entertain a motion then.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept waiver 1672-21 for a side yard placement of a swimming pool.
There's only two of you. One of you's got.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Vukatich,
Yes.
Mr. Golis,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Chairman Rowe.
Yes. All right, you're all set. You can follow back up with building and zoning and continue
Yep.
along.
One thing I might add too is just make sure we get a fence around that. We've had several complaints.
One neighbor.
Okay, yeah, so, but it still needs a fence. Once we have water in there, we just,
Gonna get that.
okay. Even temporary fence of some kind of barrier. Okay, great. Thank you.
Putting up a 6-foot privacy fence, not to east front of the house,
Okay,
so nobody will know.
okay. Thank you. Yep, and we'll get that squared away for you then. I think there's, and then, nope, okay, good.
All right, we will adjourn the meeting at 5:41 PM.
Hey, Tom,